If you're a returning subscriber, hey, lovely to see you again. If we haven't met each other before, my name's Liz, lovely to meet you. So I decided today I was going to start a new series of just weekly life lessons. So every Sunday, I usually sit down and do a bit of journaling and I reflect on the lessons that I've learned throughout the week. We're always learning something every week, right? And I like to try to document that as often as I can. So I figured I'm doing that process every week anyway. I may as well share my lessons with all of you. One of my favorite things to do is have conversations with people about what we've been learning and how we've been growing and the lessons that we've been learning together. And by sharing those lessons that we learn, both of us grow from that experience. So I'm kind of sharing these videos in that with that kind of energy in mind of like two friends sitting down together, sharing with each other what we've learned for the week. So this week's lesson came courtesy of David Goggins' book. I've only just started reading it. I'm behind on the hype, guys. That Can't Hurt Me, his first book. So I've been listening to it as an audiobook and coincidentally been doing it while I've been training on my long runs. I'm training for a marathon right now and it's been awesome like listening to quite a motivational book while I'm doing something that feels quite hard to do. And this lesson that I sort of got this week came from a quote from Goggins in the book. He was talking about his experience of a heart condition that he realized he'd had. It was a congenital heart condition that he'd only realized he had, I think, in his later 30s. And he was talking about the challenges around the fact that he could not engage in physical activity, he could not engage in his work role while he was recovering from surgery from that procedure. He had two heart surgeries. The quote that he used for that was that these challenges that he experiences is just another opportunity to be uncommon. And I paused it at that point and had a bit of a ponder on that of like what that quote meant to me because it really struck a chord with me and I wanted to think about why that was. Now, I don't know if this was sort of this is where he was going with this point, but this is where my mind went when I heard that quote. It made me think about the challenges that I have willingly taken on over the last couple of years. So like we all have challenges in our lives and most of the challenges we experience are unexpected, unchosen, but it made me think about the challenges that I've willingly chosen in my life in the last few years. Things like working full time but doing a PhD part-time on top, training for a marathon right now, working hard at my job, trying to advance my career and working really hard to be able to do that. My lifestyle changes as well, so being able to persist at going to the gym at least 2 or 3 times a week, being able to persist with eating healthy instead of falling back into old habit, comfort eating, for example. I'm also currently doing a 90-day challenge where I've challenged myself to do a variety of different healthy behaviors in terms of drinking enough water, getting to bed on time, having movement every single day, and not drinking alcohol for 90 days as well. And I thought about all of these challenges with Goggins' quote, and I remembered back at crossroads, when I get to these crossroads with a lot of these challenges that I do, like particularly my marathon training right now, right? It's every week I'm increasing my load. Like you have to get a solid base of endurance to continue to advance. And I'm working towards trying to run collectively about 40 to 50 kilometers a week. I'm currently around 26 kilometers a week, so I've still got a ways to go. And there's some days that are just really hard, right? There's some days where you wake up and you just don't want to do it. Even halfway through a run, I just want to stop. I'm exhausted. I want to start walking, And this isn't like ignoring body cues when actually my bodies are genuinely tired and we just need rest. So I'm not talking about those experiences. I'm talking about those experiences where it's just, you're largely fine, but it's just you're tired, you're cranky, little mild headache, just not motivated. And something I always think about that comes to my mind when I'm in those places is this is the part where people turn back. This is the point. This is why people don't do these things. This is why I think it's less than 1% of the world's population runs a marathon. This is why. It's this situation that I'm in right now. This is the point where people turn back. So at this point, at this crossroads, I get to decide. Am I the person who turns back? Or am I the person who keeps going forward? Even if it's at a much slower pace, it doesn't matter. It's just don't turn back, keep going forward. And the same goes, I think, for my PhD as well. It's long nights sometimes. The work's really hard. It can be really frustrating as well when things go wrong. Lots of things can go wrong. And again, I meet myself at crossroads where I can turn back. I can quit at any point, I have to decide, am I turning back or am I going forward? This is the point where people turn back. This is why people don't finish PhDs, because they're really freaking hard. There's lots of reasons why people don't complete PhDs, but one of them is just, it is just this endurance that is involved, particularly for those of us who, still have to work full time and we have to do our PhDs part time. It's just that process can take 7 or 8 years or longer, and this is an opportunity to be uncommon. This is why not everybody has a PhD. There's lots of reasons why people don't have PhDs, and actually privilege plays a big role in it. So I want to emphasize that point too. But for those of us who are privileged enough to have access, not all of us continue, not all of us persist. And it's because we have to meet these crossroads and decide we're not going to be the person who turns back. Thinking like this, it does a few things. This opportunity to be uncommon, to do something that not everyone would do, including my past self. This is the point where my past self would turn back, particularly with these healthy habits I'm trying to put in place right now. I've got a bit of pressure on myself in terms of my career, doing my PhD and doing the marathon as well. It's hard to maintain some healthy food habits and sleep habits on top of that, even though they're so crucial for the success of those things. And thinking about this is motivational. It does help me keep going. But what I also really like about this is it reveals the fact that for these chosen challenges, it reveals that this is a choice, Not all, as I mentioned before, not all challenges are chosen. Some challenges just happen to us. They're not challenges that we choose. But for the ones that we do choose, like running a marathon, for example, like deciding to do a PhD, there's a temptation to victimize ourselves sometimes when those paths become challenging. And it's just, this quote really helps me remember that it is a choice, and it is a choice to do the uncommon thing, do the thing that my past self wouldn't do. This is why my past self wouldn't do it. So if I want to grow into a different person, I have to make a different choice. And I think what else this reveals is this process reveals character. So as I said before, to be someone you haven't been, you have to do things that you haven't done. And to choose that harder path, to choose the path to persist, to go on even when you don't want to go on, that in itself is character building. Obviously achieving that goal will be character building, but it's the process of becoming that person is really where that new person is forged. It's not when you attain the goal, it's the process of attaining the goal. That's where that new person is forged. And that's just, something that I think about. I think it's totally okay that, you can set a goal for yourself, and halfway through that journey, you realize that you need to pivot, that's actually not what you want to go towards. And that's okay. You can pivot, but I think the point is don't turn back. So that's this week's reflection, this week's lesson. I hope you got something out of it. I would really love to hear about what your main lesson of the week has been. Please drop it in the comments. Thanks so much for listening, and I will catch you next time.